Hey everyone, welcome back to Lackluster. So today I am going to do something a little bit different. I'm not going to be doing my makeup. I have very limited makeup on right now. I just have these nice lips from Black Moon Cosmetics in Armageddon and some foundation and eyebrow stuff. But a lot of you requested that I do a part 2 to my mental illness video, especially since my video camera ate half of the video, so I didn't get to talk about a lot of other things that I wanted to talk about. So I'm going to do that today, so let's just get right into it. This will hopefully be a fairly short video. It's not going to be like a 40-minute video like you're used to with my videos. Sorry about that if you're not into that, but it's kind of hard to do makeup and talk about shit at the same time and condense it into like a 10-minute video. Anyways, let's get started. So I talked about in the first video that I deal with generalized anxiety disorder. If you want to hear more about that, you can watch the first video. I'll link it below in the description box. I'm not going to really talk about that in this video since I've spent most of the other video talking about it, but you can watch that later. What I am going to talk about are the other illnesses that I deal with. So, other mental illnesses that I deal with anyways. So those include seasonal affective disorder, except I have it in summer, premenstrual dysphoric disorder, or PMDD, and PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, and then BDD, body dysmorphic disorder. So where to begin, right? Let's start at the top with seasonal affective disorder. So many people deal with seasonal affective disorder. It's super common, except most people deal with it in the winter, in the colder months where we don't see as much sunlight, the days are shorter, it gets darker, etc. I deal with it in the summer. So currently, God, I look so washed out. I don't know why. I guess it's this lighting, but sorry. I just saw my ghostly face in the viewfinder and I was like, ugh. Anyways, sidetrack. So I have it in the summer. So basically after spring, when it starts to get, hotter and more sunlight, that's when my anxiety skyrockets. I mean, that's typically how a lot of my mental illnesses are. I feel like if I didn't have anxiety, then I might not have these other mental illnesses because my anxiety just exacerbates everything else, all of these other illnesses that I deal with. So typically what happens to me is I feel really tired and I don't want to do anything, kind of depressed in the summer. I really, really have a strong aversion to the heat. I live in the Midwest, so our summers can get pretty hot, not nearly as bad as some places, thankfully, but definitely can get pretty fucking hot here, especially humid, which I hate because also it's really bad for curly hair. But yeah, I hate summer. I've always hated summer, ever since I was a kid. I just don't like it. I don't like feeling hot. I don't like the amount of sunlight. I love rainy days in summer. I love storms. That's one of my favorite things. I really don't do well in summer. So I'm now that it's end of August, September's coming up, I'm all right, give me fall. Come on, let's go. Let's do this. So that's my seasonal affective disorder. Let me know in the comments if you deal with seasonal affective disorder, or if you deal with it in summer or winter, and how you deal with it. I mean, basically, for me, how I deal with it is I just practice a lot of self-care and, I take a lot of naps, for better or for worse. And I try to stay in air conditioning as much as possible, which is obviously a privilege. And yeah, I generally stay out of the sun. I'm pretty much a vampire, which whatever, I'm fine with. I love garlic too, so. Except do garlics repel vampires? I think they do. Then I'm not a vampire in that way. Anyways. So the next one I'll talk about is PMDD, Premenstrual Dysphoric Disorder. So as you can tell by the name of that, it affects those of us who menstruate. So my psychiatrist diagnosed me with that several years ago. Basically what it is, I always tell people, I did a mini episode on this for my podcast that my bestie and I do called Dames with Demons. I'll link that below too. If you want to listen to it, I go into a little bit more depth than I will here about what it is and like, etc. But basically I tell people it's like PMS, but 10 times worse. It affects me about 2 weeks before I'm supposed to menstruate. And it exacerbates my anxiety, my emotions. I feel really unsteady and uneasy with my emotions. I feel kind of all over the place. I feel really fatigued. And yeah, again, feel really kind of tired, etc. So and it affects a fair amount of people, actually. I mean, even though it's still kind of not, a lot of people don't know what it is or have never heard of it, but it does affect quite a few of us. And it can make life hell. But for me, like the second I get my period, I'm good. Like that's why I have always been somebody who actually really loves getting my period, because it does feel like a release from my PMDD symptoms. Now, I don't think that's the same for necessarily everybody with PMDD, but for me, that's my experience. So when I start bleeding, I feel so much better. Until the next time that I have PMDD symptoms, which again, 2 weeks before I start menstruating. So again, I mean, I try to practice a lot of self-care when I can. It's helpful for me just to know like, okay, this is what this is. You know, I know what this is. It's not, you know, something abnormal or weird, like I'm used to it, etc. That's helpful for me. And yeah, just, I don't know, just again, like I said, practicing a lot of self-care. So let's move on to the next one, PTSD, everybody's favorite, right? Post-traumatic stress disorder. It never fails. Anytime I talk about this on Guerrilla Feminism's Instagram, some dude is like, oh, you have PTSD? Which war did you serve in? Or like, where did you serve? And I'm like, dude, what? And that's a problem because, I mean, we have to have these conversations so people understand that like you can get PTSD from a lot of fucking things, okay? Trauma is trauma. It's not just relegated to war veterans. In fact, that's actually a smaller percentage than it is for those of us who are survivors of rape and sexual assault. I have PTSD because of having been raped 4 times. And also, I think from like, just like medical trauma stuff that I've dealt with. And so in the past, and so that's really where it kind of comes from for me. And, you know, that can really fuck with a person, especially your day-to-day life. When people talk about being triggered, like being triggered is a real fucking thing and it's terrible. It ruins your whole fucking day. Okay. It's not just like a, you know, oh, it's over and done with, you know, like if you're going to say you were triggered by something, your day is shot. And you're exhausted, you're emotionally fucked up from that, you feel like you want to die, you have flashbacks, etc. So, little side note, please don't say, oh, this triggered me or whatever, if you don't actually fucking have PTSD or you don't actually have triggers. Don't use triggered in place of offense or offensive, whatever. It's not the same, not at all. But yeah, it affects me. What sucks about PTSD, and I think anxiety too in general, is that for me, it's really inconsistent. I mean, some things I know are my triggers and I'll be triggered by. Other times I don't necessarily know what's going to trigger me. Like I could be going about my day, could be feeling fine, I could be laughing, whatever, and then, you know, a smell or I see somebody who looks like, you know, one of the guys who raped me, or I see the guy who raped me. I mean, I still live in the same city as all of the 4 dudes who assaulted me, so that's fun. But yeah, it could be, you know, like it could be just, really it could be a lot of different things, and you don't necessarily know, you can't always plan for that, which is really shitty. So my coping mechanisms for that are like, you know, remembering to breathe, as simple as that sounds, but like taking note of my breath, my breathing, trying to calm myself down that way. If I'm with people, I'll usually, and I feel comfortable enough, I'll usually tell them what's going on. If I can articulate it, sometimes I'll be too, I'll feel too traumatized or triggered in the moment that I can't really speak it. And so I kind of just get really quiet, which people who know me know that that's kind of odd for me. So then they'll check in on me. But yeah, I mean, and then if I do get triggered, I'll usually, you know, make sure I'm at home and try to like, just relax and be in a safe space. And sometimes I'll journal too. That can help, sort of just get my thoughts out. But yeah, PTSD is really shitty. And yeah, that's pretty much that. And then the last one I talked about, I'm really sick of my fucking hair right now. I want my hair to grow, and it's not growing, and I want thicker hair, and that's not the kind of hair I have, so that's cool. BDD, so body dysmorphic disorder. So that one, so I dealt with an eating disorder back in the day, like in my late teens. I grew up as a dancer. I danced ballet, jazz, tap for 13 years. You know, it really kind of fucks with a person when you're like, I mean, don't get me wrong, I love dancing. I loved doing that as a kid. I wasn't pushed into it or anything like that. I wanted to do it, but it does kind of fuck with you when you're constantly looking at yourself in mirrors. And you know, your ballet teacher's like telling you shit like suck in your ribs, and you're like, what the fuck does that mean? And so then you think that just means like, oh, I have to suck in my stomach, and like, you know, like shit like that. It kind of fucks with you. And then already when you're a teen, you're already dealing with like body image issues anyways. So all of that combined is like just a surefire way to feel and think really fucked up things about your body and yourself. So for me, BDD, like I don't see myself the way others see me. I can see myself and think that I look really different than like you all might think I look. And usually it means I see myself looking really bad or negative in some way. Whereas other people who see me would be like, what the fuck are you talking about? You know? So I don't currently struggle with that one so much as I used to, thankfully. But you know, it does creep back in every so often. You know, I still kind of sometimes deal with disordered eating, or just disordered thinking about food, you know? And so I still definitely deal with that and struggle with that and have to like work to shut that shit down because it's not healthy and it's not helpful. But it definitely doesn't overtake my life, like it maybe did, you know, back like when I was younger. So that's nice because for people who do struggle with that, you can attest to the fact that it can really, really take over your life and feel really fucking awful. I mean, as all I think mental illnesses can to some extent. But yeah, so that one, I mean, I thankfully don't deal with too much anymore. Not in a super obsessive way, I guess, like I used to. But yeah, so that is some more about my mental illnesses. I'm sure I'm gonna get a lot of like trolls who are like, feminism is a mental illness, blah. Like, whatever, dude, fuck it, I don't care. I'm not ashamed to have mental illness. In fact, most of us do have at least one mental illness. And if you have one mental illness, it's common to have more than one. So I'm really thankful and privileged that I have access to care, that I have access to medication, that I have a great therapist, a great psychiatrist, and that I have health insurance, right? So those are all things also to talk about too. It's part of a greater conversation because a lot of people don't have access to these things and desperately need access to those things. And everybody, I mean, again, healthcare is a right. It should be a right. And everyone should have access to the shit that they need. So if you are privileged enough to have access to these things, like definitely take note of that and think about that. And yeah. So I think that's it. I'm going to try to make another video soon, little makeup look. I got the new, well, it's not new, but it's new for me, Early Bird palette by Pretty Vulgar, which is a really cute indie makeup brand. They're cruelty free. So I'm gonna, I think, do some type of simple look with that on the next video. I'm not sure what I'm gonna talk about though. So if you have suggestions, let me know in the comments. And I really appreciate people watching my videos and liking and subscribing. That's awesome. Helps me out a lot. And thank you to my Patreon supporters. You really, really fucking help me. I would love to be able to get enough Patreon support to get a video camera because I'm currently just renting one from the library because yay, libraries are awesome. But I would love to have my own, just like a simple one. I don't need like some like, you know, large and in charge setup, but yeah, that would be awesome if I could get to that point at some point. Anyways, follow Guerrilla Feminism on Instagram, Facebook, I'll link below. You can follow me on Twitter, I'll link that below. I also have a Facebook page if you want to follow me there. And, oh, this shirt, Strong Women Intimidate Boys and Excite Men, is from Rebel Soul Collective. I got this like a couple of years ago, I think. They're a pretty cool brand. Hashtag not sponsored, but wish I was sponsored. All right. There's no ethical consumption under capitalism. Let's remember that. And all right, I'm going to sign off now because I'm just fucking talking. So let me know if you like this style of video or if you want to only see me do makeup shit. Let me know. I'm open to constructive feedback, not people telling me I'm a piece of shit. So yeah. All right. I hope you have a great day and I will talk to you all soon. Bye.